Hey, my name is Eric Clifford. I'm going to talk to you briefly about Testudo and why it could help you in your project. So, what is Testudo? Well, on the surface, it appears to be just another, project scaffolder or runner similar to Yaumin or NG boilerplate or init and others. Where it differs is, how it was created. It was actually created internally at AKQA while working on a recent project of ours, which was the Audi USA website, which a very front end heavy enterprise grade website with true continuous integration environment and a heavy emphasis on testing and module app development and so on. So a lot of the tools and techniques and were basically originated from readings on Adi Osmani's article on large scale JavaScript, the books and videos published by Nicholas Akas, and a lot of these things inspired us to create a framework that sat on top of RequireJS for the management of modules. That ended up becoming Bronson.js, which does that for us, gives us that control. So in addition to all these tools that we use to create Audio USA, we have now put those into an open source project called Testudo. So what Testudo attempts to do that's different than, say, Yaumin or some of those others, it attempts to do, it's got the less is more approach. It attempts to do a couple things and to do them, really well. We have first class support for, RequireJS and CoffeeScript and Karma and Grunt and Bower and true unit testing and acceptance testing. A lot of those tools and techniques are baked into Testudo, and it does those things really well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a quick demo of how Testudo works. Alright, so the first step, I'm going to assume that you have the prerequisites installed. I'm going to assume you have things like Node installed and Ruby installed, and we're going to need Grunt installed as well. So both the CLI and Grunt. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to install this Testudo template by running this command. That simply installs the Testudo project scaffolder into your Grunt init folder, which you'll have if you download this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create, so we're going to my projects directory, we're going to create a new directory for our project, and we're going to call it hello Testudo. We're going to cd into that, and then we're going to run grunt init Testudo. And it's come up with a series of prompts. We're going to go with the defaults for all of them. The one that's most interesting is, do you want to include demo files? By saying yes, which is what we want to do, is to showcase the demo. You'll also want to say yes to all the other ones because you'll need those libraries to run the demo. So that's going to finish, and then our next step is actually install the dependencies. So we'll follow these exact instructions to install npm. We're also going to just do them all at the same time. So we're going to do Bower and we're going to do bundle. We're going to run that. And now while it's running, we're going to take a look at the project structure. So let's do hello Testudo. Let's open up Sublime in that folder. And Sublime didn't open up the folder. Come on, Sublime, you can do it. Nope. Are you kidding me? There we go. I don't know why Sublime does that sometimes, but anyway. So while it's running, we're actually going to take a look at this folder structure. So the main components here are the app folder, which is all really outlined on the website as to what this folder does and what its intentions are. All pretty self-explanatory. The assets are for static assets like images and fonts, comments for third-party libraries. Modules are for our module app development, which is central to Testudo. Pages are for our HTML templates and partials. Tests are where we have both acceptance and unit tests, which are both in Testudo. In addition, something worth noting is Testudo comes with configuration files for both environment specific and user specific configuration, and it works like the defaults are, obviously the defaults, those are then overwritten by environment specific options, and then the user files are the last part of that chain. So, here's a good example of a user can optionally open the browser when the server starts, or they can disable it. But by default, these are all the default options. Another piece is we use the very popular maintainable Grunt file strategy that was made popular. Everything's in CoffeeScript, everything's customizable. Our build tasks are all outlined here. All straightforward, optimized, readable. So we're done. So let's actually start up the server. And this will load our demo. So the demo is kind of a contrived, simple example of basically loading a Google Maps component, which is its own module, and then by clicking on the Google Maps component, we're actually loading an Instagram, populating an Instagram grid based on that location. Clicking on their component continuously updates that. By clicking on an image, it just centers it. So, like I said, very contrived example. Simply there just to kind of show some basics as to how some of the pieces come together. So while that's running, let's actually go back into Sublime and let's look at the watchers a little bit. So one of the things Testudo will do for you, since it's got first-class CoffeeScript support, is that if we go into our Bootstrap file for this Instagram component, which is optionally a Bronson module, but it could be anything that you want. So what we're going to do is this is CoffeeScript because it doesn't like semicolons. So if I save that, you'll notice that immediately we get this coffee lint notification saying that particular file contains a trailing semicolon, so that's incorrect. That'll actually stop the compilation. And the nice thing about this is it actually detects a single file being changed and it runs lint against a single file. And the same thing for successful CoffeeScript compilation. So if I remove that, run it, lint free, compiles that one file, reloads that one file. So instead of compiling all the files every time you change a CoffeeScript file, we have the support there for the single file compilation. So that's obviously much more scalable than the alternative. So while that's running, let's actually look at the last major component of Testudo to keep this demo kind of short and sweet here. So let's start the unit tests. So the unit tests are run through Karma. We use Cineon and Chai and a lot of the Chai plugins, so we pretty much have full support for doing really good unit testing. Also, in addition to that, the unit tests are all wrapped in Require, so you can require fixtures or any component that you want to target, allowing you to get that really high level specificity for what you want to be testing against. So with that running and with our server watcher running, we can make any changes to any of our CoffeeScript files and the tests will run instantaneously along with live reload. You'll notice how fast everything is. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have very good examples of unit tests. That's something I want to work on, but right now our unit test is simply contrived to expect true equal true. So unfortunately, that's not very helpful, but I will work on that. One last thing that I want to show is just simply we also have acceptance tests run through Cucumber with a local Selenium instance that I will download for you, so it makes it very easy and user friendly. So let's actually do that. Let's actually stop the server first and do Grunt test acceptance. And just before I run that, let's take a look at what I'm doing here based on my configuration. So if I go into configs and defaults, I'll notice that my unit tests are running Phantom. Now that's totally customizable. I can change it to like Phantom, Firefox, Chrome, or a combination of all of them. My acceptance test browser is going to be Firefox. That's one of the best ones run through Selenium. So by doing that, also, interesting note down here is that by putting any key value pairs in this environment block, we're going to get these properties set in the environment variables of Node. So in this case right here, what this is essentially saying is that I want this particular version of Selenium to run, which corresponds with the most recent version of Firefox. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and run this really fast. So Grunt test acceptance. actually going to download that version of Selenium. Once you've downloaded it the first time, it will never download again. So this reduces the need for having to put that into Git. You can essentially let that download for each individual user. Then it's going to start the server, load it in Firefox, run a very simple test of clicking on the map, seeing that the images appear, and closing the test with an arbitrary sleep to let you see that. So you can see all that happen. I've got all the logging in there for Selenium. It's a very simple test, but it showcases that we have acceptance tests built in there. To look at what that test looks like quickly, we go into acceptance tests. We've got the standard cucumber gherkin feature. We've got the step defs of how this works. Very simple given when then scenario. Very clean using the excellent WD driver for Selenium. And then finally the world file, which is obviously very simple as well. If you notice, we have all the configuration baked in for single file configuration. So that's basically it. I know I didn't really go very deep into the module app development. That's kind of a deep subject. I would advise people to look at Bronson or look at the demo for examples of how this really works and how useful it can be. So thanks again. Hope you enjoy. Definitely leave any feedback for us, and we'll be happy to work with you guys. Thanks a lot.